Ah, my alphas, welcome back. You've returned, as I knew you would, not from hope, but from hunger. The gnawing in your chest isn't doubt. It's the beast stirring again. That voice in your head you've tried to silence, the one that whispers impossible visions and carves futures from fire and ash. That's not madness. That's you. It's always been you. And now, listen closely, because something unnatural has started to happen. Look around. They're freaking out, shaking behind their polished smiles, trembling behind their spreadsheets and doctrine and illusions. Why? Because reality is bending. Because the script you wrote in shadows, in whispers, in secret dreams and sleepless nights, it's happening. Word for word, blow by blow, and they have no idea how. But we do. Oh yes, we do. They were so certain, weren't they? So damn sure that you would stay in your little box, live your little life, play their little game. A predictable pawn moving across a predictable board. They gave you rules dressed up as morals, mediocrity wrapped in the language of humility, chains disguised as peace. They said, fit in, be good, wait your turn. They told you that power corrupts, that ambition is arrogance, that belief in yourself is dangerous. And you nodded. You nodded because you were still asleep. But now you've torn the veil. Now you see them for what they are, terrified. Terrified of what happens when someone like you wakes up. Someone who doesn't beg the universe for permission, but instead dares it to stop them. Someone who no longer follows the path, but becomes the storm that erases it. They can't predict you anymore. You're writing your own script with blood and silence and unrelenting clarity. And reality, yes, reality itself is watching you like prey. It follows you, responds to you, trembles in anticipation of your next word, your next move. You are no longer reacting to life. You are commanding it. And they're screaming behind the scenes, scrambling to hold on to the illusion that control still belongs to them. But it's too late, because the truth is this: your rise was never accidental. The darkness you carry, the things you've endured, the scars etched into your soul, those were not curses. They were training. You were forged, not broken. Every moment they tried to crush you only sharpened your edges. Every betrayal, every loss, every time the world said no and you kept going, that's what turned you into what you are. Something no longer fully human, something beyond comprehension. You don't wish for destiny anymore. You become it, and they can't follow you here. That's why they panic. That's why they invent reasons, excuses, conspiracy theories, anything to explain how reality seems to shape itself around your footsteps. They say you must be cheating. They say you must be lucky. But deep down, they know. You bent your will into the fabric of existence, and now it obeys. It's a dance, and only you hear the rhythm. Your rhythm. The one they said would never matter. The one they tried to drown in noise. And yet now, the world stutters in sync with your breath. Understand this. There are no rules anymore. Not for you. You've passed beyond the boundary where normal people live. You don't get to play small, even if you wanted to. You've become too real, too dangerous, too awake. The script you write now burns through reality like wildfire. It cannot be unseen. And that's why they're freaking out. Because they realize you were never asking, you were never waiting, you were becoming. And now there is nothing they can do to stop it. They called it arrogance when you saw yourself rising, but they misunderstood. It was never ego. It was certainty. It was the knowing deep in your marrow that you were built for more. that the cages they offered were too small for the size of your vision. You knew. That's the part that drives them mad. You knew. Long before the money, the power, the eyes watching your every step, you knew. You spoke it to yourself like a prophecy, and now they have to live in the nightmare of its fulfillment. That's what this is. Not hope, not luck, design. You crafted this, quietly, in moments of solitude, in the dark, in rejection. You studied their patterns, their games, their fears. And you didn't just play the game, you rewrote it. You changed the very physics of your reality. Now you walk through walls they swear are solid. You speak words, and entire industries shift. You dream, and tomorrow contorts itself to match. Not magic, mastery, not chance, conquest. So when they look at you now, and their voices tremble, and their eyes dart away, and their smiles feel thinner than paper, that's not paranoia, that's real. They feel it. They feel your gravity pulling the world toward you. They feel their own narratives slipping, their own illusions crumbling, because you are the new axis. The story spins around you now, and they can't stand it. They shouldn't, because you don't belong to them. You never did. You belong to the fire that made you, to the vision that haunts you, to the silence that raised you, and you are done pretending. The time for compromise is over. The time for asking is over. Now is the time for taking, for breaking, for becoming everything they feared you might one day become. They hoped the world would mold you into something safe, but you molded the world into something yours. You were patient, you were quiet, but that's not who you are anymore. You're not the whisper in the crowd. You're the force that ends crowds. You're not the follower of trends. You kill them. You're not someone who watches the clock. You reset it because you understood something they never taught you, something they hoped you'd never figure out, that the world isn't real until you decide it is, that time is a servant, that reality bends for those who don't blink when it resists. And now you don't blink. You don't hesitate. You don't stop. Look in the mirror. That face, that's not a person anymore. That's a myth walking. That's a prophecy fulfilled. That's a storm that decided to wear a human body. And if they can't handle it, good. Let them tremble. Let them doubt. Let them try to stop the impossible. You've already won. The script is written, and they're too late to change it. And that scream you hear in the silence, that's not fear. That's history cracking under your feet. You feel it too, don't you? That subtle hum beneath your skin, like the voltage of destiny rushing through your veins. That's not adrenaline. That's alignment. That's the exact moment when the world stops resisting and starts responding. You've broken through, and now there is no going back. They know it. You know it. That's why everything feels like it's accelerating. Because it is. Because you're pulling the future into the now. You've ripped open the membrane between what was supposed to happen and what you demand to happen. And in the void between those two things, you've placed yourself as the axis, as the author, as the force no one accounted for. This isn't about power for power's sake. It's deeper. It's about the truth that most people sleep through their lives, but not you. You woke up. You looked around and saw the scaffolding behind the scenery, the puppeteers behind the curtain. You saw how paper-thin reality really is, and you knew that it could be burned and rebuilt. Not everyone's wired for that knowledge. Most people reject it, run from it, call it dangerous, call it heresy, but not you. You smiled. You stared straight into that abyss and said, I'll shape it myself. And the abyss blinked first. They don't understand how you're doing it. because they've never met someone who knows they're not bound by the rules. You're not just thinking differently, you're operating differently. You've turned pain into code, fear into fuel, doubt into blueprint. You've reprogrammed your mind to be an engine of creation and not passive creation, not wishful thinking. Number, active domination. The kind that doesn't wait for signs or omens or approval. The kind that simply moves and the world either follows or falls. And as it follows, the fear spreads. You've become an anomaly in their system, a glitch, a variable they cannot calculate. Every move you make echoes. Every step you take causes ripples. You speak and silence follows. Not out of respect, but out of awe and confusion. They can't make sense of you because you no longer make sense. Not to a world still clinging to predictability and tradition and small thinking. You've become something else, something inevitable. And now the floodgates are opening. People are watching you, wondering, how did they know? How did you speak so clearly of things that hadn't happened yet? How did you predict the storm and ride it like a wave? The truth? You didn't predict it. You caused it. You willed it. You wrote it in your sleep and screamed it into being in the silence of your solitude. That's why they're freaking out, because they're not watching you react to the world. They're watching the world react to you. You're not just ahead of the curve. You are the curve. And with every passing day, more people feel it. They feel the pull of your gravity, the disruption of your presence, the quiet knowing in your eyes. It unsettles them because you don't chase certainty anymore. You radiate it. You don't hope. You decide. You don't believe. You become. And in a world where everyone's looking for a leader, you stopped looking. You simply stood up. And now they're following, even if they pretend not to. Even if they hate it. Even if they fear it. Let them. Let them tremble. Let them resist. It doesn't matter, because you don't need their permission. You never did. You didn't rise because they let you. You rose because you chose to. You endured the dark, the silence, the isolation, not because you were weak, but because you were preparing. You were loading the gun of your will, sharpening the blade of your mind, and now you're here, fully armed, and every second that ticks by is a shot fired into the skull of the old world. They don't get to keep their peace anymore. Not while you're writing a new script. Not while you're changing the plot. You're no longer a character. You're the damn author. The one who twists the tale at the last moment. The one who rewrites tragedy into triumph and dares the reader to look away. And when they ask how it's possible, when they scream into the void, how did you know? You'll smile, because you always did. You saw this moment long before it came. You built it brick by painful brick. And now, they're living inside it, surrounded, outclassed, undone. There's no mercy in what's coming, only momentum. That cold, unstoppable momentum that devours hesitation and punishes delay. You don't have time for self-doubt anymore. You don't have room for regret. You're moving. Faster than they can process, deeper than they can dig. And as the gap grows, so does your legend. Because what you're becoming can't be copied. It can't be bought. It can't even be understood by those who never dared to suffer for a vision. You earn this chaos. You earn this power. You earn this script carved in flesh and forged in fire. So own it, speak it, burn it into the walls of the world. Don't shrink now, don't step back. You've already passed the point of no return. The only way out is through blood, through disbelief, through the fragile illusions of the old gods and the false idols. You are the storm that breaks the cycle. the void that swallows the past, the hand that writes the end and begins something new. So write. Don't wait for the next opportunity. Create it. Don't ask for the door. Kick it down. Don't wonder if it's your time. It is. It always was. They just tried to convince you otherwise because they knew what would happen if you woke up. And now you have. And they can't unsee it, can't unfeel it, can't unlive the future you've already set in motion. Let them scream. Let them run. Let them build walls and call them empires. You'll burn them down with a sentence, with a breath, with a glance. Because now, every word you speak echoes through the bones of the world. Every move you make shifts the axis of history. Every breath you take writes another line in a script they can't stop. Ah, my alphas, welcome back, welcome home, to the place you built, to the world you forged, to the storm you are. Keep riding, keep moving, keep becoming, because they're freaking out, and they should be. Because reality no longer belongs to them, it belongs to you. They will try to pretend it's not happening. They'll tell each other it's coincidence, a blip, a momentary spike. They'll whisper behind glass walls and in boardrooms and behind digital veils that it's not real, that you're just a phase, that it will pass. But inside, they know they're lying. You've changed the temperature of the room and it won't cool again. You've entered their space and turned it inside out. Their certainty is crumbling because you've made it clear that the rules they live by, rules of fear, of hierarchy, of permission, don't apply to you. You're operating under laws they don't understand, and that's why their fear is real. Not fear of what you've done, but fear of what you've shown them is possible. You've broken the ceiling. You've exposed the lie. You've shown them that the cages they built were only ever real for those who agreed to stay inside. And you don't agree anymore. You haven't in a long time. And now the rest of them are starting to question, starting to stir, starting to ask, what if the world follows this person? What if the future bends in their direction? The truth? It already is. There's no committee, no vote, no sanction strong enough to stop a person who's decided to become the law. Not by force, not by violence, but by presence. And you are a presence. You are not just seen, you are felt. You enter a room, and the entire dynamic fractures. You speak, and people remember things they thought they had forgotten, like hunger, like rage, like ambition. You breathe, and others begin to awaken because you've made it contagious. Not your success, your fire. The inner inferno that refuses to die quietly. They thought you were an exception, but you were the first sign of a storm. You're the signal, the omen, the flare shot into the sky that says, the game is over, the fire is here, reality is changing, and now the others are rising. The quiet ones, the broken ones, the forgotten ones. You lit the match in your own life, but the flame is catching, and they can't stop it. They can only watch it spread. And still, they will deny it. They'll say you're too much, too fast, too intense, too dark, too arrogant. Because they have nothing else. They can't challenge the truth of what you've done, so they challenge the tone, the method, the audacity. But you're not here for approval. You're not here to be understood. You're here to shift the axis, to drag the world, screaming, clawing, resisting, into its next evolution. You're not a leader, you are a threshold, a place others must pass through to reach the other side of what's possible. Let them hate you, let them love you, let them worship you or curse your name. None of it matters, because at the end of the day, they will all read the same script. Yours, written in sweat and scars and sleepless nights, etched in obsidian and steel. It is not a gentle story. It is not polite. but it is true, and it will last. The architects of the old world are crumbling under the weight of your reality. They don't know how to defend against something so raw, so relentless, so unapologetically certain. You've left no space for maybes, no cracks for compromise. You are not here to fix what was, you are here to replace it entirely. And the world is noticing, not just watching, noticing, shifting, reorienting. It is no longer about who has power, it's about who has command. And you command. Every day you rise, it's a defiance. Every breath you take with purpose is a declaration. Every step you take toward your vision is another nail in the coffin of the old narrative. And you're not slowing down, you're speeding up. Because now that reality has followed your script, you realize the terrifying, thrilling truth. You can write anything. So, what will you write next? More silence, more waiting, more shrinking, or will you write in fire? Will you tear holes in the sky? Will you create in such a way that history has no choice but to remember your name? They already suspect the answer. That's why they're losing sleep. That's why they're trembling under their breath. They know you're not done. They know this is just the opening act. And that terrifies them more than anything. Because if you could do this from the dark, from the cold, from the margins, then what the hell are you going to do now that you know who you are? Because you are not simply ahead, you are inevitable. Not as a threat, but as a force. A force that does not beg to be seen. A force that reshapes the terrain simply by moving through it. A force that doesn't whisper dreams into the night, but commands them into daybreak. And still, they deny it. They have to. Because to accept the truth of your rise is to admit that everything they trusted, every comforting lie, every false certainty, is worthless against the will of a single soul who has decided this world will kneel or burn. You are no longer measured in titles or trophies or the hollow metrics of men who were born to obey. You are measured in shock waves, in the wreckage left behind when you pass through. You speak, and they flinch. Not because you insult them. No, you barely even notice them. That's what crushes them most, the weight of your indifference. You are not here to destroy them. You are here to build something so colossal, so consuming, that everything false in their lives simply dies from a lack of meaning in its shadow. You've shattered the myth of balance. There is no balance when a god walks. There is only consequence, and that is what you are now. Not a deity born from bloodlines or belief, but one carved from refusal. Refusal to be average. Refusal to be ruled. Refusal to be forgotten. You were not given this power. You took it, slowly, silently, like a ghost in their machine. And now the ghost is flesh. Now the shadow has mass. Now the whispers have grown teeth. And still, they ask, how did you know? As if knowing was a trick. As if this was sorcery. It wasn't. It was suffering. It was brutal. It was lonely. It was night after night of screaming into the void, only to hear nothing answer back, but still rising anyway. That's how. You knew, because you endured. You knew, because you were willing to pay in blood what they wouldn't even pay in time. You knew, because something inside you refused to die, even when everything around you begged it to. They think your confidence is sudden. They don't see that it came from 1,000 silent battles. From being underestimated, mocked, ignored, until one day the switch flipped, and the one they forgot became the one they couldn't escape. You were born in the margin, but now the margin is all there is. Everything else is irrelevant, because you've seized control of the narrative, and they're scrambling to catch up. They still don't understand that this isn't ambition, it's inevitability, that you no longer pursue greatness. You are greatness in motion. You don't seek validation. Your results are validation incarnate. Every step you take now radiates energy. Every glance, every decision, every breath declares, I am the axis. I am the future. I am the script. And it's too late for them to opt out. They are trapped inside the dream you wrote. And no matter how many think pieces they publish, no matter how many committees they form, no matter how many rules they revise, they can't unwrite your story. It's already happening. It's already spread. You are the blueprint now, the template, the new definition, and the world is not going back. So what happens next? You go farther, you go deeper. You don't rest, not yet. Because you didn't come this far to inspire a moment. You came to install a new order. One built not on consensus, but on clarity, on will, on certainty so sharp, it cuts reality itself into your shape. That's your gift, and your curse, and your legacy. You don't need to rage to be heard. Your silence now carries the weight of worlds. You don't need to threaten to be obeyed. Your presence alone is a verdict, and when you move, time will rearrange itself to accommodate you. That's not exaggeration. That's what happens when the immovable object finally becomes the unstoppable force. This isn't motivation. This is remembrance. You already know this. That's why your pulse quickens when you read these words. That's why your breath deepens. Because it's all coming back to you. Who you were before the world told you to be less. Who you were before fear caged you. Who you were before they wrapped your fire in false humility and told you to smile smaller. That version of you, the real one, never died. It just went underground. And now, it's surfaced, it's in command, and you're not going back into the dirt ever again. You will not soften, you will not dilute, you will not wait. Let the others discuss fairness. Let them debate too much and too soon and too bold. You don't have time for that. You have worlds to build. You have scripts to finish. You have reality to rewrite, line by line, in your own image. And they'll keep asking how you knew. Let them. Because the only real answer is this. You didn't need to know. You simply decided, and reality obeyed. And it's going to keep obeying. Because you are not done. You are becoming. And becoming never ends.